Hello, members of the most illustrious fantasy football league, Eagle Point Butts. It is I, your commissioner, and 3-time undisputed champion, Chase E. Callahan, coming at you live from HQ. Ready to break down the week 4 to 5 power rankings. Tough week for some, great weeks for others. And we're going to get right into it because we're trying to get this video out before tonight's game. So we're going to be quick. Here we go. All right, in the number 1 spot this week, no surprise, we've got the Victoria's Secret looking really strong to start the year, especially having Kenneth Walker back, who just had a monster game. Positives for Champ, his team is healthy. That's really the reason Champ is doing so well right now. His team's healthy and his running backs are really producing. CJ Stroud finally hits the 20 plus point mark. Amon-Ra gets that touchdown. All positives for Champ. Negatives for Champ. The rest of his wide receivers are still a little suspect. We're waiting to see if Devontae Adams lands somewhere. But Champ's running backs are just carrying him through at a time where points are kind of scarce. This past week, points were really scarce for a lot of teams. And Champ has an abundance of points thanks to his running back core. Will be interesting to see as these running backs start playing a little tougher teams if they keep up. But Champ, well deserving of the number 1 spot. Still healthy, and that is important for Champ. All right, in the 2 spot this week, up from 3, we've got Tim, Hilton Head Whalers. Another great week for Tim, and another health week for Tim. I know Malik Neighbors got a little banged up, but I think it was concussion, long week because they played last Thursday, and so he should be fine coming into this week. And like with Champ, Tim's health is a big deal. He really doesn't have anybody that's a health concern as of yet. And he's doing all of this with Tyreek Hill putting up minimal points. So Tim, scary team. Positives for Tim. Jahmyr Gibbs is a beast. Looks great. Nico Collins, if we drafted today, would probably be a top 5 pick in the league. Negatives for Tim. Josh Jacobs still hasn't found the end zone. You got to hope that'll turn around, but Emmanuel Wilson's cutting into that time a little bit. And then you just hope that George Kittle can stay healthy, and Brian Robinson got a little banged up. But Tim and Champ definitely have the 2 deepest teams in the league. I think Tim might have the deepest team in the league. Just top to bottom, such a solid team. It'll be exciting to see where he ends up as the year goes on. All right, then in the 3 spot this week, we've got Bert's Butts. Brett. Ending the streak, which needed to end because, like I said last week, my team's a Frankenstein team right now. But we come on down here. Brett was able to put up some major points, even with Josh Allen only getting 7.3 in a really tough game against Baltimore. Positives for Brett. David Montgomery continues to just produce. That run against the Seahawks was unbelievable. Jordan Mason also continuing to produce in that Christian McCaffrey spot. And it looks like Christian McCaffrey isn't going to be back anytime soon. And Jayden Reed had a stellar game, just a stellar game against the Vikings, which is a very good defense. Negatives for Burt. Brandon Ayuk, again, tough. Josh Allen now has kind of been a roller coaster if we actually pull it up. Yeah, look, 31 points, 9 points. 30 points, 7 points. We're kind of sensing a pattern here. Don't like to see that. Would like to see some more consistency, but it's tough to hate on that. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. has 10.5 points because of that touchdown. And I don't have time to do our Marvin Harrison Jr. tracker this week, but that's not a good sign. It's just not a good sign. Cole Kmet's nobody. So yeah, some holes for Bert's team, but well deserving of the 3 spot because outside of Christian McCaffrey, he's also relatively healthy as a team. And so I think he's going to be just fine. And Jayden Reed, really somebody to watch as the year goes on. It's going to be interesting to see if he can keep up this production. All right, in the 4 spot this week, down from the 1 spot, we have the boss, my team. Tough week. I mean, just the injuries just piling up. I mean, look at that. Cooper Kupp, Pacheco, McBride was out this week. And now Rashee Rice, who I thought tore his ACL. Turns out he may not, and that might be a season-saving thing for the boss because my receiver core was just outstanding. I mean, you look at this team and you're like, what does this team look like if Tua's not hurt, if Kupp's not hurt, if Pacheco's not hurt? Now, if Rice isn't hurt, I mean, this is a stellar team, so it's tough, just tough. But the good news is we're 3-1. We're staying the course. People are going to get healthy. DK continues to have good games. It was 104 yards, 1 fumble, but he continues to have good games. CD is consistent. Sam Darnold has been fantastic. I've got Jordan Love back now. We just got to hold on until some of these people get healthy, because then we can go right back up to the top of the mountain. But finding wins along that trail while people are getting healthy is going to be very interesting. A real test of the fantasy football IQ. So we'll see what happens. 4 spot this week. If I lose to Mike this coming week, I don't want to foreshadow that, but if I lose to Mike this coming week, I ain't going to be top 5 very long. So we'll see what happens this coming week. And then right next to me in the 5 spot is the other owner who is having injury issues, ZP3, USDA certified lean, who finally had Debo back this past week. Still didn't have Mixon back. Bijan's a little banged up now. I guess positives for Zach is Lamar is balling out. Mike Evans is balling out. Dalton Kincaid finally starting to come out a little bit as a tight end, because the tight end production for everybody's been so bad. Positives, getting Debo back is going to be key for Zach. He really needs Debo and Mixon to compete with teams like Tim and Champ in this league, because top to bottom, Zach has a very good team. It's just health. It's like my team. If we're healthy, we're competing. If not, it's going to be rough. So negatives for Zach, again, is going to be that health. You also don't really want to be relying on Najee. Najee's a good flex play, a good RB2 play, but you really don't want him anywhere near Bijan's scoring total. Atlanta's got to figure something out with Bijan, because he's way too talented to be utilized the way they're using him. But Zach got a big win this past week against Luke. Who's he playing this coming week? Let's find out real quick, if my internet will let me, because the internet sucked today. He's playing Tyler this week. That's going to be a big matchup. That's going to be a big matchup. Really determine the courses of 2 teams. So, but Zach in the 5 spot, starting to get healthy. He'll probably keep going up. All right, and in the 6th spot this week, we've got the proud owner and operator of Brennan's Buttholes, Brennan the Biz himself. Losing a tough one to Tim, still getting some points scored because Derrick Henry, an unbelievable kingly performance against the Bills. Tony Pollard, also a sneaky good performance against Miami. But there's a lot of negatives over here with Brennan's team. Breece Hall only getting 1.8 points, 4 rushing yards, 14 receiving yards. Not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. Drake London and Chris Olave not having big games. I mean, Brian Thomas had a big game on the bench. Maybe play him over Zay Flowers, but like, what are you going to do? Brennan's receivers are inconsistent, and that's going to be an issue for him. Anthony Richardson also getting hurt. Dude, Anthony Richardson hurt his hip, and then they put him in after taking him out for an injury and had him do a QB sneak. Wild coaching. I think I've already commented on the young coaching this year and just the wild ideas, like Atlanta on 4th and 1 running like a sweep to the outside or something, or a run to the outside. Stupid. People will learn. But Brennan needs some receiver help. So I think if he can get his receivers right, he'll be fine. He plays Brandon next week, so that's going to be a big week. Looking forward to it, but I think Brennan belongs in the 6th spot for this week. All right, I think probably the most controversial pick I'm going to have is in the 7th spot, and that's actually going to be Brandon Mucho Mondos, who had a tough week this week, giving Mike his first win. But I still really like Brandon's team, believe it or not. I think he's got a ton of talent on this team. People just didn't show up this week. Kyler Murray had a really bad game against Washington. We expected 20 points out of Kyler Murray at least this week. Devin Singletary, bad game against Dallas. James Cook, bad game against Baltimore. I think Brandon just had a bad week, just an off week. I think the one question mark for Brandon, if Ramondre Stevenson is going to suck and he's going to lose a fumble a game and they end up benching him, that'll hurt Brandon a little bit, but his receiving core is really not that bad. He just needs one more receiver and he's going to be solid. And so maybe go out and get that receiver because Jamar Chase and Terry McLaurin are really good 1-2 punches. And then when Puka eventually comes back, he's going to be in a good spot. I think for Brandon, he needs to just try to hold on, try to maybe make a trade to get some wins because as the season goes on, his team's going to be better. I just think he had a tough week. I do like this team still. So Brandon in the 7 spot for now. Jamar Chase finally. Last week and this week is finally looking like Jamar Chase, which Brandon needs right now. And Terry McLaurin having a good relationship with Jaden Daniels is also going to be a bright spot for him. So yeah, if I'm Brandon, keep the course. Maybe see if you can make a trade for a wide receiver and take it one step at a time. All right, in the 8th spot this week, we've got Tyler Ridley Dees. And I've got Tyler in the 8th spot because this team has been overperforming, I think, based on where I saw it at the beginning of this year. Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara have been absolute studs. Derek Carr has fallen off, but Tyler's been very active on the waiver wire and trying to bolster his team, picking up Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb coming back, the practice window opening up. I think the practice window opened up for him. It's not going to tell me because ESPN or NFL website sucks. Just sucks. But Tyler has got a wealth of running back depth. If Nick Chubb comes back, I would try to sell one and get a really good receiver because his receiver core sucks and it's dragging his whole team down. He's getting great production out of his running backs. He needs to go find some solid receivers to help him. And so Tyler, give me a call because I've got a couple that are healthy that have been really consistent. Christian Watson getting hurt didn't help him, but he can't rely on Tennessee's offense because their offense sucks. You can't rely on the Browns' offense because their offense sucks. And Garrett Wilson has no rapport with Aaron Rodgers. So Tyler needs to go get a wide receiver. The good news for him is Travis Kelce finally got some looks with Rashee Rice being out. So that'll help Tyler. But I think if he can just find some receiver talent, his running backs have been excellent so far. So in the 8th spot this week, we'll see where he's at next week. All right, and in the 9th spot this week, we've got the gentleman. He is no longer in the 10th spot. Praise be. In the 9th spot, he finally got that big win against Brandon. And coming down here, some positives. Deontay Johnson's life changed when Andy Dalton became the quarterback for the Panthers. Deontay Johnson all of a sudden became a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson things against a very good Packers defense. Jerome Ford, he'll take 8.5 points out of the flex spot all day, especially in a non-PPR league. And Aaron Jones, another solid game. Carson Steele, his career with the Chiefs, he's going to be in the backseat of that running back by committee. Don't really want to touch that running back by committee. But Christian Kirk, Mike went and picked him up after I dropped him. Could be a sneaky little play. Move Jerome Ford up, put in Christian Kirk, bing, bang, bong. Mike's team is really not bad. Top to bottom, he just needs tight end production. We talked about this last week. He needs tight end production in order to make his draft make sense. And then once AJ Brown is healthy, that will really help him as well. But Mike up from the number 10 spot to the 9 spot. Tough week next week because of all the bye weeks he has. But we'll see what happens because he's playing my team, and Lord knows my team needs help too. So up from the 10 spot to 9 spot, Mike gets his first win. And then finally in the 10 spot, Leather Daddy Luke having a tough week for some reasons, but bright spots for others. Let's talk about the bright spots. DeAndre Swift having finally a breakout game as a Chicago Bear. You got to hope that continues. I mean, this was a closer game than people thought between him and Zach. Saquon, you got to hope he finds the end zone against Tampa Bay, man. Still a good game for Saquon, but Luke needs Saquon to have big games to win games. Stephon Diggs is like a 1B receiver for the Texans. Chris Godwin, solid, consistent. His points will be between 10, but 8 to 14 a week. The tight end production just in the whole league has sucked. And so I'm not gonna talk about Mike Gesicki. But the negatives for Luke, Patrick Mahomes has not had a 20-point game yet this year. Highest he's had is 16.38. I hate to say this. If I'm Luke, I might be shopping for a quarterback. what is he, like 20th overall for quarterbacks? 16. Still, you don't want in a 10-team league, you don't want the 16th best quarterback. Dak Prescott, I think, is ranked higher than him, right? Yeah, Dak's 7. Get Patty Mahomes out of there and put in Dak. Good news for Luke. If Joe Flacco is the quarterback, Michael Pittman is going to be a receiver finally for Luke that he can rely on. Otherwise, it's bad. But negatives for Luke, just a lot of holes on the team. Samaje Perine's not somebody you want to be playing every week. Tyler Lockett's the same thing. And so that's the reason Luke's in the 10 spot this week. Let's kick it over to America's Game of the Week and wrap it up. USDA Certified Lean. All right, and then we got the USDA Certified Lean America's Game of the Week. They've all been great so far, all living up to the hype. And this week we got the number 1 power ranking team versus the number 3 power ranking team, Champ versus Brett. Should be a fantastic matchup. I'm very excited about it, really looking forward to it. But I hope everybody has a fantastic week. I hope this week we can just play football and not have crazy injuries. We need these injuries to stop. We need these flags to stop. It's like every other play, the refs are throwing crazy, stupid flags. Just let the boys play. Make sure you say thank you to Dominion Voting, our sponsor for this year, giving us the safest and most certifiably safe elections of all time. And I hope everybody has a great week this week. Thank you, Lee.